Welcome back to the garage here at Basin Motorsports. So today we're going to get the wrap or the vinyl wrap kicked off for the 1986 Foxbody Mustang, the hatchback I commonly call the Gray Lady. So if you remember, this vehicle was something that I pulled out of a field 3 years ago out in Redmond, Oregon. It had been sitting for about 3 or 4 years, just kind of wasting away in the desert. We've stripped the body, we've cleaned up everything, and now it's finally time to do a color change vinyl wrap here. So this video is really just going to cover the beginning points of how I set up the garage to be able to do this efficiently. And one of the things I always tell everybody is that prep is the key to having a great vinyl wrap. Now it's the same with paint. Poor preparation is just going to kill your workflow and cause a lot of problems. So let's kind of go over the beginning before you even cut the first piece of vinyl, how I've set up the garage, set up the car, and then kind of look at how much vinyl I plan to use for this wrap out of the roll I have. Alright, so what you're going to see here is that I do have the 86 completely stripped. Now this body has been sanded to 1500 grit. It's been wet sanded by hand all the way through. The moldings have already been painted, and you notice I have the moldings on the back of the front fender, the door, and right on the beginning of the rear quarter left on. Those are still on from the factory. They are still adhered very well, but the others in the front of the fender and the rear of the quarter below the fuel filter or the fuel filler door has already been taken off because those are actually attached with fasteners. So those have been pulled off. All of the tape around the windows has been removed. The windows themselves have been painted in an SEM charcoal gray, so that way they're all ready to go. But you can just see that the car is up on jack stands. The wheels and tires are removed. Right now the hood is off, the front bumper, the rear bumper are off, and it gives me plenty of access. The fenders themselves are already unbolted, that way I could sand them and paint them off the car. And I've just left them unattached so that I can get to all the nooks and crannies, the crevices, everywhere around the fenders, cowl, door, without having a lot of stuff in the way. And after the vinyl wrap, everything will be reassembled. If I spin around, you can see that I do have the hatch taken off the car. This top edge, when you lift the hatch up, actually becomes almost impossible to get your fingers into. So I just pulled the hatch off. There are 2 bolts down underneath the sill there. There's a hinge on each side that is just 1 bolt inside. And my wife and I just pulled that off. Again, that's been already sanded. I just need to retape the windows to make the vinyl not stick to the glass. But otherwise, everything is prepared, and I can actually wrap most of the top surface on the table, and then I could always flip it or leave it, attach it to the car, and then do the bottom half or the wrap around the edges. But everything there you can kind of see is shiny, ready to go. So when I start this vinyl wrap, I have an initial 75-foot roll, and that comes out to 900 inches in linear length. And what you're going to see here is that I have each part of which is going to be wrapped. The length measured with a tape measure, and if you don't know how to measure this stuff, I did a video when I did the wide body of how to measure for a vinyl wrap, and I'll throw a link up in the top corner if you need to go watch that on how to measure for a vinyl wrap. You can also notice that here, the material direction, I typically try to make everything go front to rear on these cars, but on this, I think I'm gonna have to do some mix because the hatch itself is actually pretty long, pretty wide really. So I can go fore aft, top to bottom under the 60-inch width of the material, but the width of the cross car at the very tail section is about 64 inches. So I'm gonna make the material go cross versus doing it front to rear. Now the summation of all these pieces, if I cannot use any of these for other pieces such as the spoiler, it's 91 inches to wrap around the edge. I may be able to get a front bumper out of that or a rear bumper out of that and save myself some extra material. But if I can't, what I expect to use is about 754 linear inches. That taken out of 900 gives me a 146. And I should have roughly 12 feet of material left by the time I get to the end and I don't make any mistakes. So if you do make a mistake, you just know you have 12 feet to try to replace any of these, and if you have to replace maybe one or two, you'll still be in the range where you won't run out of material and have to order new. If you start getting really a lot of problems and you have to order new material, well, let's just hope you don't have to, because sometimes the coloring doesn't come in right. So one of the last things I really need to do is clean off all the windows and anywhere that I need to apply some blue painter's tape just to make sure the vinyl doesn't stick. So it's going to be some of the moldings that are left on the car, the windows that I will have wrapped that will come up and touch. I'm just going to put in, this is just some 2-inch blue painter's tape, nothing fancy. You can get this at any local store probably. Get all of those done completely to where I don't have to worry about the wrap sticking to the glass. Just makes it more difficult. And then I can clean off any surface that I need to on the glass before I clean the surfaces. Now again, I'm always going to use a 70% isopropyl alcohol, hard to say, 70%, and then I'm going to use nitro gloves or latex gloves or whatever you prefer. This stuff does soak into your fingers, so it's really not great for that. That's the reason for the gloves. Now each panel we will do individually. I am going to do the rear quarters first, the front pillars, I will do the roof, and then I'm going to do the hatch, and that is just so that I can put the hatch back on the car where I know it will be safe. From that point on, we can either choose to do the cowl, the front fenders, the doors. All of those are independent of each other, and it really doesn't matter the order that you do them in. You can always work front to rear, rear to front, top to bottom, however you want to work it. But since I'm going to overlap the roof to the quarters, to the pillars, and the hatch kind of is in the way, I'm going to get all that knocked out first. So if you have any questions on materials I'm going to be using during this whole process of doing this vinyl wrap, I will put links in the description down to Amazon or other places that I have it. The wrap is going to be an Avery Dennison matte titanium that I've had for 3 years since I took the wrap class, and if you don't remember me taking the wrap class, I'll throw a link up to that for you to go check that out. Otherwise, it's time to stop jabbering and time to get taping, wiping, and wrapping. So head on over to the next video, and we'll see you next time.